good evening, everybody. Welcome back. We're back after a little hiatus. This is going to be episode 26, season 5, On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. I've got my partner, Mr. Nick Valente, here with me tonight. Nick, how's it going?
Hey, Jay, doing really good. Yep, and we have Jen back here for part 2.
Yes,
And good surprise for the audience, what we're going to start in on, right? That'll be fantastic.
absolutely. So, Jen, you're talking before the show. We got into your first Dogman encounter.
Yeah, hey,
Sightings.
start from the beginning on that one.
Yeah.
My husband and I were going. It was on a Sunday evening, and we were going to get groceries in a neighboring town because we live about 15 miles from any really county seat or any grocery shopping.
Right.
So we were taking a secluded country road that runs along behind our house, and there's a river that runs along the side of this road for a good 5 or 6 miles. And we turned a curve, and we were running about 40, 45 miles an hour on this really curvy road. And I see something run from the riverbank toward the truck, and I'm thinking it's a Sasquatch. And as I look at it, I realize quickly it's not, because it has a head of like a wolf. So I quickly unbuckle my seatbelt and lock my door and scoot over toward my husband right as it runs up to the side of the truck. And it's pacing our truck. It's keeping up with us. And it's so close to the truck, if my window had been down, it'd been in there with us. And it was looking right at the mirror on the side of the truck. So his face was plastered right there in the mirror. And it was keeping pace, perfect pace with our truck. And like I was screaming to my husband and hysterically. I'm like, that's not a Sasquatch. That is not a Sasquatch. That's a damn werewolf. It's exactly what I said. And I'm almost in his lap as he's driving. And we're watching this thing keep perfect pace with the truck. And I'm saying, speed up, speed up. And he said, I can't go any faster. So I get up on my knees and I'm looking over and I'm looking at this thing. And I'm like, it doesn't have a tail. And it's not running 1 foot in front of the other per se. It's lunging. I told my husband at the time, I said, the best way to describe it is it looked like a kangaroo hopping. The weeds were really tough at the time, so they hadn't cut the weeds on the side of the road. It was late fall. And it looked like a wolf running on 2 legs, running on its back legs. But I could see its hands, and they were balled up like this as it was running. So I knew it had fingers and not paws.
Right.
I'm looking at this, and I'm just completely confused because although I've grown up with Sasquatch in my life, all of my life, I had never heard of a Dogman. I didn't know what a Dogman was.
Jen, just a quick comment for the audience. Jen lives in eastern Tennessee, if I'm correct. And they were in a truck, and they were going approximately 45 miles an hour. Now, I've been contacted by many people who have said, well, specifically in Pennsylvania was the last bunch. And they have told me Dogman running by the side of their car, they were doing 35, then the husband got up to 40, 45, 50, finally lost it when they were doing 65 miles an hour. But I don't want to take up all of Jen's story. I just want to remind people that they have been seen by other people in different parts of the country running beside a vehicle. So go ahead, Jen, pick up from there. You're over
and
there
this
watching
thing
this
was so intelligent. It knew I was watching it. It kept cutting its eye at me, like just sort of cutting its eye, glancing at me, but it was still looking straight ahead. And it was like it was laughing at us. And it kept full pace with our truck running 45 miles an hour. And it ran right beside us for at least 1.5 miles, 2 miles. Then it darted off and went back to the river. Well, the whole time I'm soaking in what he looked like. And he had really dark, blackish gray fur on his head, down his back, some on his chest, but not as much. Like I said, he didn't have a tail. On the front of him, he was a little bit different color. He had like white and tans mixed in. So he was very multicolored. But he looked to me to be like a juvenile in my mind. Because
Jen, about what time of the day was this?
It was late evening. It was just before dark. So it would have been probably 6:30, 7 o'clock at night.
Right. 6:37. How was the weather?
It was clear. It was fairly warm that day, I remember. I remember it was still daylight, but it was just sort of getting dusk. The sun was just starting to set, but there was still plenty of daylight to see. So my husband didn't have his truck lights on.
He didn't. So he didn't need it at that time. So he kept pace with you guys at 45 miles an hour.
Like it was nothing.
Like it was nothing.
Yeah. Like it was nothing. Running on 2 legs, running on his back legs. And like I said, it wasn't running 1 foot in front of the other. He was literally lunging both feet at a time through these weeds and keeping up with our truck. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
That's impressive.
Especially with a canine like Bean, but that's exactly how it was moving.
Wow. You know, it's interesting you say about the gallop. I think she's the third person we've had tell us that about the Dogman encounter.
That type of
it's not a run;
is
it's more of a gallop.
Yeah, you know, it was more of a gallop.
Interesting.
Can you give a guess, Jen, about how tall it was?
Well, he was head and shoulders taller than the frame on the glass. It was a Ford F-150 standard king cab truck. So he was
7 footer,
at least 6 feet, 5.5, 6 feet.
Okay.
Because I've stood right there at the same part on my husband's truck, and it hits me here, and I'm 5 foot. So he was a head and shoulders taller than me.
So at least 6 foot.
At least, but he was really small, real narrow, like
small frame.
Like a youth.
Probably
very
a juvenile then, Jay.
I'm thinking it was juvenile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they, you know, I've had many reports on juveniles out there, and they like to mess with people because they don't know any better.
If he could grin, if he could have been grinning, he would have been grinning. I mean, literally, the way he kept cutting his eye at me, he was making sure we were looking at him. He knew what he was doing. He was playing with us, but he wanted to be seen.
Huh.
Right. I think that it goes for a lot of, even like Sasquatch encounters. If they want you to see him, you're going to see him.
Exactly.
They don't want you to see him, you're not gonna. You know, I mean, simple as that.
3 years ago, I was speaking of the Sasquatch. 3 years ago, I was taking, well, it was 2 years ago. I was taking a bucket of cornbread up to the gifting tree, and I had to exit my house, my property, cross a field that's about 60 yards to another fence, lay down a gap, and step through the gap. And as I stepped through that gap and took about 3 steps, every hair on my body stood up on my right side, and I just froze. It's one of those instances where you know you're being watched and you're in danger. And I looked to my right, and I literally froze because there was a dog man not 30 feet from me. The only thing in between us was a wet weather pond, which was empty. And it was on the other side of a pond, and it was standing in the fork of 2 trees.
Ooh.
And I lifted it, and it lifted me. And instantly, my mind was hearing attack or run. You know, do I attack or run? And I knew that's what was going through this thing's mind. And I never broke eye contact with it. And I held up the bucket. I said, if you're hungry, eat this. And I just set it down in front of me. And I was watching it really close. And I could see just above its head, the top of its head, where a limb had been snapped off. So my mind was going, I can come back later and we can see how tall it was, because I could measure to the bottom of that limb. But I backed away. I've never taken my eyes off of this thing. Of course, I was petrified. I've never been afraid of a Bigfoot in my life. These things frighten me. They are fierce, and they look hungry, and they look mean. And they stink for high heaven. They smell bad. You know, I've never noticed a bad smell with the Sasquatch family that's here. But this dog man, he smelled like he'd been rolling in roadkill.
Oof.
Oh, he was awful. He just radiated all around me. It smelled terrible. So I'm backing away from him. He never took his eyes off of me. And I never took mine off of him, because I knew better than to run, because I was raised on a farm. I was raised in the country in these hills. So I know he is predator and I'm prey.
Absolutely.
So I backed away from him, left the fence down to about halfway to the center of that field in between where he was and my house. Then I turned and I hauled butt to the house, shaking to the core. Now, he was tall. He was tall, really dark gray. The hair on his chest was lighter. It was like a blending of grays and whites, a little bit tan in there. He had huge eyes, wide set apart. He had really tall ears that stood up really high. He had a long nose. He had teeth. He was canine. He was wolf-like in the face. He looked very much like a wolf in the face. He was much broader to the shoulders than the first one I saw. He had long, skinny arms. He had fingers. Now, from the knees down, I couldn't see because he was standing in tall grass, tall weeds. But everything else I saw very clearly. I saw him clear enough that with him standing there on his back legs, standing straight up like a man, he had slight bend in his back.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that when you stand up a puppy and rub its belly, you know how their skin is flappy on their back legs right there at the belly. He was like that standing there on two legs. You could see it was a little bit flappy there. So you could tell he was used to standing up or going down on forward to move because of that skin. But you could see chest muscle, you could see stomach muscles under the hair, under the fur. But he had fingers and they had claws.
Well, that's right.
He did not have paw. And from what I could see, he did not have a tail on it.
Okay.
I've got a picture of him. I think I've seen it to you where he was crossing over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll look for it and I can send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just wanted to go back to the one where that was running by your truck. What was the final outcome for that one? Did you guys finally lose it? Did he run off?
About 2 miles after following us at 45 miles an hour, it came to another opening where the river had swung back around to make closer to the road. And the river was about 50 yards and it just darted back in toward the river.
That's impressive.
So it was just putting on a show.
Yeah.
Wow.
45 miles an hour for 2 miles. Imagine trying to keep that pace.
Exactly. My mind is really, at the time, it's just like, I'm not believing this is happening. I'm really just not believing this is happening.
You got to remember, just like the strength and the power that those things have. I mean, just like a grizzly bear or a brown bear, people look at them, they say, it's 8 feet tall, no big deal, weighs 1,200 pounds. But those things have a lot of strength, a lot of power in their legs and in their, in their front appendages.
And the jaws.
Tell themselves really fast. So this guy being a juvenile, probably that was nothing for him. Oh, wow.
But, it was just up close and personal. And of course, my husband was with me the first incident. He was a witness to it. It was just me, myself, and I the second time. But since then, I've gotten pictures of several of them here. In fact, I was walking the ridges behind my farm about 2 years ago, about the same time, with one of my friends, Julia. And we got on the top of the ridge and we saw what looked like a wolf pup. And it was a hollow log. And he had backed himself into this log, and it had what looked like a deer hide was laying over the log. And Julia and I both saw it at the same time. So I started recording with my phone. And Julia, she came like in a trance. And she started walking toward it. And the whole time I'm saying, no, Julia, stop. That's not a puppy. That's not a coyote. Stop. Because I've already seen an eyeball standing up looking at us from behind it. No. And I grabbed her arm and she said, well, what is it? Then I said, I think that is a Dogman pup. Well, she was gone. So I stopped recording and went after her. But I've got about a 2-minute video of that pup up on the ridge with the bigger one standing up back behind it. I think I've sent that to you too.
I think I've got that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had so many encounters on this farm, not just with Sass, but with Dogmen. And I honestly don't want any more encounters with the Dogmen. They give you a feeling of foreboding. Well, like they really want to prepare you to.
That's 3 encounters you've had. I mean, have you had any more than 3?
I had something else happen to me, and I'm not sure that they were there. But something stalked me back to the house. It was in August. My husband had been resting in the recliner, and he got up. Of course, he folded the foot part of it down, and he got up and went outside. Well, after he did that, we noticed one of our dogs was missing. Just before we built a retainer fence around our backyard to contain the dog. So we thought he was gone to one of the ponds. Truthfully be known, he was trapped under that chair. So we crossed over that same fence where I had the encounter with the Dogman. I went toward the neighbor's pond, which was to the right. He went to my father's pond, which was to the left, because this little dog loves to go get in the ponds and play and chase frogs. So I go to the neighbor's pond, and as soon as I stepped over a drainage ditch that encircles the entire pond in its spring fed, there was just total silence. You couldn't hear anything. And it was very windy that day. Again, it was on Sunday. And the wind is so hard that it's whipping the hardwoods that are all around this pond. It's whipping those limbs just as hard as it can. But you can't hear the wind. You can't hear the limbs moving. Then I noticed right in front of me, I've already made it about halfway around the pond. I noticed there was a frog right at my feet. And I looked at it and it jumped into the water, not a foot from my feet. I could not hear the water splash. Then I knew I was in trouble. I literally could not hear anything. You could not hear traffic. You could not hear birds. You could not hear the wind. There was absolute total silence. And then in my mind, I heard, it's a trout, turn around, step in every step that you took to get in order to get out. And that's what I did. Well, I should have only been gone at the most 30 minutes. We're talking 500 yards from my house. I get back, my husband grabs me and shakes me. He's in hysterics. He's been looking for me for an hour and a half, and he's gone to that pond 3 times, and I was not there. I never left the pond area, and it was very open because the hardwoods were extremely tall, high up, canopying that pond, but you could see clearly all the way around it. I never left that area. He went there 3 times, and I wasn't there. But when I finally made it out to the exit, and I stepped over that drainage ditch, both ears popped like they had been like when you go up in a plane, how your ears will hurt. That's what happened. And then I felt very disoriented, and I felt fearful for the first time in my life in the woods. I felt terror because I was being stalked on either side of me. I was on a cow path where the grass had been beaten down, which was about 7 or 8 feet wide. But on either side of that, the grass was about 7 feet tall and thick, and I could hear them, sense them on either side of me, like I was being flanked and pushed all the way home. But somehow I ended up with an hour and 45 minutes missing time.
Wow.
And I told my husband, I said, I think that's probably the closest anybody's ever come to a missing 411 to live to tell about it. Because it's the only explanation I have for it. There was no sound. Yeah. You could hear nothing. I couldn't hear my own heartbeat. I couldn't hear a frog jump into the water a foot from me. No sound. Then I'll step out and there's like a huge explosion in my ears, and then all this fear, and it was like it was directed fear. Something wanted me to feel that fear,
right? And
it drove me home. And my husband was on the point of calling the police and reporting me missing. He was a basket case.
Sounds like something Sasquatch do, Jay. You know,
yeah,
with the infrasound.
I've had that happen. Yeah,
I've been hit with infrasound. That wasn't infrasound. That was something else. It was something on a much higher level than infrasound.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had infrasound drop me to the ground, holding my guts and holding my head too. But I've been hit with that. This was 100 times more powerful.
Wow.
Wow.
It was terrifying.
I bet.
And to this day, I still have no explanation for it. And I will not set foot near that pond. When Daryl came up to visit, he wanted to go to the pond. I said, I'll take you to the pond, but I'm not stepping over that drainage ditch. I'm not going up there with you. Not happening.
I don't blame you.
You ever have any Dogman or Sasquatch follow you home and tap on the window or anything?
Sass do that a lot. Now, my niece, who lived with my father until he passed away, and then she moved in with me. His house was right at the end of my driveway, so we're talking 150 yards. So she would leave my house late at night, about 9 o'clock every night, go home, take a shower, and get ready for school the next day. And every night, they would follow her to the house in the field beside her, and they would whistle to her, or they'd throw a little pebble at her, or something. But it was the Sass. She never said anything to me at all about seeing anything that looked like a dogman.
Right. Now, you remember last time you were on, you were telling us that your daughter lives across the road, right? And your son-in-law? My son
and my daughter-in-law and my grandchildren.
Now, do they have any activity on that side?
Oh, yeah. They've had a lot of Sasquatch activity, but to their knowledge, they haven't had any dogman activity. But they have gone out at night and taken been fired at wolves. They thought it was maybe some hybrid coyotes or some kind of wolf that they saw and shot at, which I suspect it was exactly what's on this ridge behind me.
Yeah.
Dogmen.
Yeah.
So all the adults in that house, they leave the house, they're packing. Even if they're just riding 4-wheelers with the kids, they've all got something, a sidearm.
Sure. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the Dogman and the Sasquatch on your property? I know up here the Sasquatch will leave for a certain time of year, and then the Dogmen move in. They don't cohabitate up north this way. That's what I've noticed over the past 10, 15 years. What about down there on your property?
What we've got down here is a no zone, which no zone meaning no sass and no dogman, and it's a very narrow strip of land right behind me. Sass will stay directly to the left of my house, and the dogman seems to have taken over that area around that pond.
Okay.
But also something I found too is, and I found it by accident, and it was before I had my ordeal at the pond. I found a family plot cemetery that's just my back from the pond, maybe 80 yards. But it was really overgrown and grown up, so I went and investigated it. Of course, it had a lot of Civil War soldiers buried in there, so it's a very old family plot. I found it interesting that the Dogman would take over that side of the farm where the cemetery and the pond are. But that's where they are at. They're on a ridge just directly above that pond.
Yeah, Jenn, Dogmen are noted to protect Native American Indian burial grounds. That's something they're noted to be doing. It's possible you may have had some Native Americans buried there also. I know you said it might be Civil War, but it's possible.
There's a river that runs right in front of my house, and there have been many Native American mounds found along that riverside, all up and down this road that I live on. Right. So that doesn't surprise me.
No, definitely not.
Did the Sasquatch have access to water?
Yeah, there's 4 ponds on the farm behind me. My father has a pond. There's a creek and runs directly in front of my house, and then along Lower Hilton Road, which is what I live on, there's a river, part of the larger tributary that feeds into the river. So there's water everywhere all around me. All kind of game, all kind of wild foods, every kind of critter you can think of.
Yeah.
So there's water, there's food, there's shelter for them. So that's a prime area.
There's caves too. There's a lot of caves in here.
Oh,
this
really?
County, in the Revolutionary War, this county is where they mined most of the saltpeter to make gunpowder for the American soldiers. So there's lots of caves and old abandoned mines in this county. Plus, as a crow flies, I'm 30 minutes from a huge lake. In fact, we used to fish a lot, and I only had to drive 10 minutes to the dock to put my boat in. So we're very close to the lake. You could walk from my back door to the lake and never see a house if you know how to go, which I've walked it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's prime real estate for cryptids.
And then
prime real estate.
People wonder why Tennessee has so many Sasquatch and Dogman sightings. I mean, prime. You've got water, you've got food, with all the different animals out there. You've got caves, So I mean, that's definitely prime area for them.
Yeah, I had a lady post a picture of something she found in the woods in Georgia, and she had no idea what it was. And instantly, when I saw it, I knew what it was. I said, "That's pawpaw fruit off pawpaw tree." And I said, cryptids love to eat them because they're like a wild banana. And we've got pawpaw trees here on top of the ridge, and before I've ever been able to go up there and harvest any, they've already eaten them all. And persimmons, don't even think about looking for a persimmon. Between the sass and the raccoons and the possums, you're not going to get any persimmons. So there's all kinds of food in here besides game.
Yeah.
You've got every kind of berry you can think of, every kind of wild grape. Like I said, pawpaw fruit. You've got white leeks. I mean, river cane, which they've been known to strip and eat. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff in there.
You're never going to get rid of them out there then. They've got it made. That's a paradise for them.
It really is. This is the least populated county in Tennessee. And for it to have so many hills and hollows and so much access to water and game, they're never going anywhere to here.
No. I'm just surprised that no one's ever made a documentary in that area, because that would be prime area. Even more. I think
there's been a few, hasn't there, Jen?
More so, really?
Not right here, but about 45 minutes from here.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in Kentucky. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The same ones that were doing that were here, and they're the ones that set me up with all the recording equipment, night vision equipment. And they were part of the BFRO, but not directly. And I got quite a bit of really good footage. You know, I told you about the time that I had the encounter with the Sasquatch where I had to take the camera down, didn't I?
I don't think so.
It was, I stepped outside because my chickens were going wild in their coop, and it was dark at night, and it didn't take time to grab a flashlight. And I take off, running around the house, and in between my tractor shed and the hen coop is like a little alleyway, the length of the tractor shed, and it's about 6 or 8 feet wide. As soon as I rounded the corner around that tractor shed, I slapped into something really hard and bounced off of it. And when I looked up, I was looking at a male sass. He was jet black, and I had bounced off his stomach because I had turned that corner so hard going down that alleyway. And then he stepped back away from me, and he started tapping the back side of the tractor shed. Well, the BFRO had installed a camera in the corner of the roof for that tractor shed, pointing out on the field behind it, because it was part of their highway to get to the creek. They used the creek in front of my house to travel. And he was slapping the back of that tractor shed. I knew exactly what he wanted. I said, Coco, I said, it doesn't work, it's broke. And he just kept slapping. And I said, it's broke, I'm telling you the truth. And he just kept slapping. So I had to go back into the tractor shed, climb over all kinds of boxes full of Christmas decor and Halloween decor and everything you think of to get up to the roof to get this camera down in the dark.
Oh.
And once I got it down and went back around, he was gone. But now he is a big boy. The pitch on my roof of that tractor shed stops at 9 feet. And he was a head and shoulders over that pitch.
Ooh.
I bounced right into him when I come around there. And luckily, he's one of the ones I had seen many times. In fact, the first time I saw him, I'd taken my son on his first deer hunt, his first juvenile hunt. So I guess he would have been about 14. And we'd gone up to my dad's pond and used my dad's deer stand. And after we got through, we were coming down and turned and walked toward Dad's pond. Dad's pond was dry at the time. And it still had a few cattails standing up. And I saw something small and black sitting in the mud of the pond, peeping around cattails. And I nudged my son. I said, you see that? He said, yeah, keep walking. I said, it's just a baby. He said, yeah, keep walking. But that was the first time I remember seeing him. He's jet black. And his head is, the shape of his head is it's very distinguishable. He's got a round face, but his head comes up to like, almost like a pure pitch point. But it's really his hair. But he's got, his face is just one, his head is one you don't mistake. So I knew
he's 10 feet plus.
Yeah, he was at least.
That's
awesome. He's big boy. That's and big. This was 12 years after I saw him at the pond. So to give you an idea how they grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was baby size. I mean, toddler, like a human toddler when we saw him sitting in the pond.
Oh my God.
And 12 years later, I bounced off his belly.
Yeah, 10 foot plus. Wow.
He's probably been observing you all these years too.
He has, I'm sure, because I've been taking a bucket of cornbread up there once a week for years. There's the one special tree that they picked out years ago for me to take them their treats, and that's what I've been doing.
How many is there in this family? In this family group? This family group you've got on your property, how many of them is there, do you think?
Adults, there's at least 8 or 9 adults. And I couldn't tell you how many juveniles there are. Because they have quite a few babies.
Jay, that's a big group. Wow.
Well, a lot of the seniors are females. There's 1, 2, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 big males. And the rest are females. And then the larger ones that most people would take as an adult that are 7 or 8 feet tall, those are their young. I still consider them babies.
Yeah. Considering how big they grow, yeah. I mean, 7-footer would 6.5, 7-footer would still be a younger one.
The alpha male, we measured his height. And the reason we got that is when my son snuck off one day to have a cigarette, he stole out my purse. He went down the road that runs in front of my house, and he pulled off a little pull-off area, a little roundabout that sits right beside the creek. And you go on around, you step out of the creek, walk across the road step over my father's fence, and there was a huge old oak tree there. And I mean, it was big and round. Anyway, David was sitting on his four-wheeler smoking just on the other side of the creek. Sky steps out of the creek, looks at David, took 3 steps, was over that fence, and went around behind that oak, and was just peeping around looking at David like that oak was big enough to hide Sky. David was, when he got home, he was just in hysterics. He said, Mama, it would have took 5 of those trees for him to hide behind. But I saw where he hit his head when he went under that main limb that shoots out. I said, well, did he hit the top of his head or was it his hair? He said it had like a top knot of hair on the very top of his head. And when he went under that tree limb, he raked that top knot of hair on the underside of that limb. I said, all right. So I had grabbed a tape measure and took it with me. I'd gone back down there right then with him on the four-wheeler. And there were still wet tracks on the pavement. And you can see where he sunk up about 1.5 feet deep in mud when he stepped over my father's fence. And so we went around to the tree, and I took this tape measure and saw it straight up to the underside of that branch. And from the ground to the underside of that branch was 14 feet and 9 inches.
Oh my God.
I don't think a lot of witnesses that see these really judge their height correctly.
I agree.
I really don't.
And weight either. I think people.
Another big boy that's close to 15 feet. We had the one in New York State that I went to, the one in Alaska that one Bigfoot author saw, and Jen, 15 footers. That's massive. I mean, his shoulders must be.
Bobby, my son said that his shoulders were wider than he is tall, and he was 5'4".
So probably 6 foot shoulders.
Yeah, he said his thigh was bigger around than that tree, that big oak tree that he was standing there trying to hide behind. He said, Mom, I can't describe to you how big his arms were. They were just, and he said this part of the arm. He said, Mama was just like logs.
I bet.
But that's the alpha male.
Jen, we've spoken about these things. I mean, you're looking at like 3,000 pounds of
at least a solid muscle.
I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, how strong these things must be. We couldn't even hope to measure. We couldn't even hope to think about it. I mean, sincerely, a 15-foot Sasquatch, 6-foot shoulders, tree trunk legs. Oh my God.
For me, 10 foot's enough. The one that charged me had to be every bit of 10 feet because she was sitting on her butt and I was still cocking my head to look at her eye level. And we were just about foot and a half apart. She stood up. She'd been every bit of 10 foot.
Oh.
That's a massive female right there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
My husband's 6'2", and when he had his encounter at the back fence with the big female that bared her teeth and growled at him and snarled at him, they were 6 feet apart. My husband was looking at her with his head completely cocked. He said she was not under 13 feet. There's no way. She was double his height, and he's 6'2".
That's incredible.
Did she
I said she's around 12, 13 feet somewhere in there.
Was she smiling at him, or you think she was?
Oh, no, she was angry with him.
Oh, angry. I thought maybe she was looking for a boyfriend or something, and she was smiling.
Me and my husband had a shouting match that night. You know how married people do. We've been married for 22 years. So every once in a while, we have a spat.
So they took your side.
They took my side. He got up about 2 o'clock in the morning to let his old dog to go out to pee. And then she just instantly vanished. Well, she had seen her and went under the back porch. So Bobby went around the house clapping his hands, saying, here, Dixie, here, Dixie, here, Dixie. He walked over to the barbed wire fence in the backyard. She was about 6 feet on the other side. And she stood up with her back to him, and she turned her head, and she bared every teeth in her head at him, and she growled and snarled at him. And then she proceeded to very slowly walk away from him, still glaring at him. So it absolutely petrified Bobby.
My God.
I'm sure. Poor Bob. Wow.
But going back to see a 15-foot Sasquatch, unbelievable, 3,000 pounds. Jay, I mean, that's incredible.
That's what I mean. When you were saying you think people underestimate the height, I think people underestimate the weight as well.
They do because they're solid muscle. Their skin is thicker than ours.
Yeah.
Yes.
You think about they walk around all kind of climates barefoot. Yeah. That skin on the sole of that foot has got to be inches thick.
Yep.
And their bones are thicker than our bones.
Oh yes, they're
You
so
know, and
dense.
the bone, the muscle, the skin. I mean, my God, 3,000 pounds of 15-foot cryptid. That is, people in the audience, you really have to, you really have to, think about this and into your imagination and wonder what something like that could do if it got angry. Luckily, they ignore us for the most part.
Yeah.
Very luckily.
Most
Oh,
people, when I'm reading their accounts of it, it was 8 feet tall, or it was 9 feet tall, or it was 7.5 feet tall. I'm like, you met a juvenile, because I've watched these things grow up.
Yeah.
They get massive, and the more the area they have with proper food and proper water, the larger they get.
And your area
I'm
provides
loaded.
all of that. Provides all of it.
I'm loaded.
That's incredible.
Snakes, birds, fowl, every kind of critter you can think of, except I think maybe not badgers. I've never seen a badger here, but actually I think there was one killed on the road just about 6 or 7 miles from us last summer. So with badger, I mean, you name it, deer. We have deer, duck. We have ducks. We have
Do you have any
wild
Wolverine?
turkey. I've never seen a wolverine here.
All right.
I have seen a couple of armadillos.
Oh yeah.
They aren't making it this far. So yeah. And snakes galore. We're right in the middle of rattlesnake country.
Wow.
And big bear too in Tennessee, isn't there? A big black bear?
But there was there's some up in the Smokies, and I'm about 2.5 hours from the Smokies. When there was one black bear that made its way all the way through Middle Tennessee, late summer this year. It went through about 6 different counties. So they figuring it was just a young male that was looking for its own territory.
Transient
male. We don't know for sure where it ever ended up, but as far as bears here in this county, there's never been any record of one, not since the early 1900s.
Huh.
And everybody wants to say, "Oh, you just got bear on your farm." Look, dude, I've been seeing these things all of my life, and this is no bear. I grew up in the woods, ridden horses all of my life, camped all my life. My dad was an avid hunter. I know what animals look like. I know what coyotes look like, wolves look like, coy dogs look like, and obviously a dogman. And I've got I had some dogman pictures that I took that I absolutely, and I'm so glad I was not in the field that day. Yeah. They really just looked, it's like something out of a nightmare.
Yeah, they're intimidating.
Yes.
Screaming.
Yes. Now, and they're much, much, much smaller than a Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah.
I'd go have a party with a Sasquatch and never, almost did with that feed that day with Rosebud, but the wolves, no. I just call them the wolves because I don't know what they are. They look more like a wolf to me than dogs.
Yeah, they give a very malevolent look when they look at you. In my encounter, he looked at me very sarcastic. The only thing I can say is very sarcastic looking.
Yes. That big one I saw at the pond that day, and that was just, the look on his face was, do I attack or run? Do I attack or run? But the whole time he's not taking those big, huge eyes off of me. And you can see his moving his lips. He's really thinking hard, what do I do?
Oh,
and that's why I said, you can have this, eat this, and back away. But yeah, that had me like this. My husband will not let me back on the farm alone anymore. I used to take off for an entire day hiking just by myself.
Yeah.
I knew I was safe with the sass. I don't trust these dogs. I don't trust these wolves.
No. Wow. I remember last time, Jen, something I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned some other cryptids you see on your property, like cat resembling looking.
It resembled a cat. I was
Really?
There's a tree that they all seem to gravitate toward.
Okay.
And I had looked up into the tree one day as I stepped out back and crossed the fence. I was going into the field, and I looked up and I was like, I better stop. Because up in this tree was this, it looked like a cat being. It was standing there like a dogman was standing there. It was built a lot like a dogman, but the head was feline.
Wow.
And I've sent that to you, Jay. I know you've got that.
Yeah.
But directly below it on all fours looks like a alien. I mean, it's only way you can describe it. It looked like an alien. It had big almond-shaped eyes and the round, big round head.
Jen,
And
Jen, did it look like a cat or did it look like maybe a hyena?
now I've seen some here that look kind of like a hyena.
Oh,
I
Um,
want to show you something. It's a bad picture, but right here.
Mm-mm,
No.
no. Mm-mm,
Okay. Just wanted to
mm-mm.
make sure.
The mouth is too big. This
Yeah.
looked very feline.
like
And his
a, like
ears.
a,
What
like
kind
a
of
mountain lion
size?
face.
It was black and white, which really
Oh.
made it stand out. And it was up in the trees. Thank God it wasn't on the ground. They both were up about 20 feet off the ground in a tree.
Can you
And then I'm
estimate a
like,
size?
maybe 5 feet.
All right, so they were standing up on their hind legs and they were about 5 feet.
Wow.
We got something new out there now, well, at least that I'm aware of now.
It
I
was
haven't
black
heard
and
that.
white. I think I've sent you the pictures, Jay. If not, I'll send them to you and show Nick.
Yeah, that'd be cool if you could resend them because I know you sent them to me about probably 6 months ago.
Yeah,
So I
I
have to
did.
scroll through the rest of my stuff. But you know, I read I forget who wrote the book, but they talk about encounters with these cat people as well. There's actually been a couple other sightings down near your way, like in western North
That day,
Carolina.
as soon as I saw them, I held my phone up and I did a short video. And as I'm holding it on them, it just fades back into the tree and just vanishes. Well, I knew it cloaked. So I
Yeah.
shifted the phone and I started doing this with the phone. Well, directly on the ground to the left of it, there was 2 more of those creatures, but these had on looked like they were black. They were solid black. But down the arm, it looks like lights. And at the top of the arm here, it was shaped like a diamond. It was red, white, and blue. And I was like, what the hell? They got on a uniform, but it looked like a cat, a small cat person. It was built like a human, but it definitely had the cat head.
Cat head. That's.
I'll send you the pictures. I'll send you the video so you can look at that. But it's just it was the craziest thing. I'm like, it's Robin that's had encounters with cat people, not me. And I had to contact her and send her that picture and say, what is this? She said, that's a cat person. And I was like, I don't know, seriously, a cat person? But it's plain as day, obvious. It's not blurry. It's just obviously there.
Right. Wow. What do you think they are, Jen?
I think they're alien, quite frankly.
Yeah, me too.
I think they're either from another realm, another dimension, or they're from up above coming down. Yeah. But they're not anything natural for this world. Right. Unless it's something that's been created by
man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised at the sleeve of what it looked like. It had on a black leotard suit. That's what it looked like. But it looked like a human form with a cat head. It's obviously a cat, and it's got lights up and down its arms, both arms, which I realized was probably for cloaking. But the most interesting part was on the shoulder, and it was the icon shaped like a big diamond. It was red, white, and blue. And I thought, why would it be red, white, and blue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a coincidence. Anyway, I have the video to prove it. I have pictures to prove it. The only reason I mention it is because anyone, if I didn't have that, would think I was a nut.
A patriotic cryptid.
Well, it was honestly red, white, and blue.
I'm just kidding, but wow, that is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. The only cat people I've heard of that are bipedal were in southeastern Virginia. I haven't heard of anything like what you're describing down there in northeastern Tennessee. That's you sure do have a lot. But then again, look at all you guys have out there. You've got the water, the food. It's vegetable type food. It's meat type food. You've got caves out there, all kinds of places for them to hide.
Yeah.
It's a place just for the picking. I'm surprised. And you have a small population too. So that's a plus. They're probably not doing a lot of building where you are, so they're not being pushed away.
There's very little activity like that in this county.
Yeah.
Just very little. There's no jobs. Most people that live here drive out of county. They drive to Davidson County or Wilson County or Rutherford County.
Wow.
That's 1, 2, 3 different type of cryptids out there alone.
Yeah, it's incredible. Have you ever gone poking around in those caves, Jen?
Not me. I am not a caver. Oh no.
I'm not.
I
I
don't
wouldn't
even
either.
want to think about what I'd run into.
I know.
My husband
right?
found one hunting, and he was going to go explore it. Well, he got within about 30 yards of it, and he got surrounded by sass, and they started snapping trees, pushing trees down, roaring at him, and they turned him. They literally turned him, and he was armed, and ran him back home.
Oh, he's
So
surrounded. Probably a dozen or
they
so
literally
of them.
surrounded him. They sure did.
Makes you wonder what their intentions were, if they were trying to get him out of there because of something else, or if they didn't want him around that area.
I think they didn't want him around that cave because it was on their part of the farm.
Okay.
And I would say it's probably one of the hiding places that they have.
Yeah.
And
That
he
makes
just found it by accident out hunting. So he said, well, I'm just about to the point I'm going to quit hunting. I mean, he said he's almost at the point now. He's so terrified. He don't even want to go outside at night after dark. About 3 weeks ago, he goes outside. I have a large dog. He's half Chow and he's half Pyrenees. And Bo wanted to go out. So we let him go out. Well, I have a wooden hutch that I built that I grow herbs in. And it's in the middle of my backyard. Well, instantly, Bo ran around behind that and started pinging, started barking, raising cane. Something was in there. Bob was down on the porch watching. Something shot out the back of it. And he said it looked white. And it ran right in front of him. And it just petrified him. He looked back at it. And then Bobby said it was like a fog appeared out of nowhere. And this thing literally vanished in front of his eyes into this fog, and then the fog vanished. I said, well, what did it look like? He said, it looked like a small canine of some kind, a small dog of some kind. But when it turned around and looked at me, it had more of a face like a rat. I said, rat, like a snarling chihuahua? He's like, yes. And I said, the only thing I can figure, it must have been a Dogman pup.
Pup, yeah.
Pup, yeah.
So I went out there the next morning and looked, and sure enough, they had torn away all the grass and down to the dirt in a round area inside that hut, and then left a beautiful handprint, paw print, but it was really a handprint right in the center of that dirt. I said, well, it had to have been a Dogman. Look, Bob. So, yeah, he don't even want to go outside at night after it gets dark. I mean, they really have him upset because they come in so close to the house. But I said, well, it was just a juvenile. It was just a little one. And he was just found somewhere to lay down and thought it was safe. Because this time of year, all my herbs are really tall and thick. So it just looks like a bunch of weeds. He calls it my weed house. But it's wildflowers. It's herbs and wildflowers.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally had made itself a nest in there.
Wow.
But he said it was a little bit larger than my dog Max, which is a Shih Tzu Chihuahua mix. And he said it wasn't quite as big as Bo, but somewhere in between. But it was canine. I said, well, did it have a tail? He said, no, it did not have a tail.
It probably smelled pleasant to it. And being a juvenile, that was heaven for it to lay down in.
Well, that's where I grow cat mint and my bee balm and some of my sages and some of my own world mint all grow in there together. So I'm sure he did think it smelled good. It really did smell good in there.
Right.
But it tore my husband off pieces. He said, what in the hell can just vanish right in front of your eyes? I said, it's sass and a Dogman. Yeah. Because they can cloak just the same. He said, but Jen, it was like a round ball of fog. It went into it and then all of it was gone. I said, yeah, that's how they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was just tore all to pieces. It kind of reminded me of that time that they threw an orb of light at Daryl and it turned into a possum. You remember him telling that?
Yep. Yep.
It kind of made me think of that just in reverse.
Yeah.
I said, well, are you sure it wasn't a possum? He said, good God, Jennifer, I know what a possum looks like. It was not a possum. It was canine. I said, okay, just make sure. Well, the very next night, he's sitting there looking at me. He just finished his dinner and he said, oh God. He said, I meant to go outside and feed the horse before dark. I said, I hate to tell you, honey, but it's dark. So he goes outside and he goes to the barn. And about 25, 30 yards from the barn is a creek that runs right in front of our house. And right as he's got the bucket of feed, going to give it to our horse, he gets screamed at by a squatch, and they screams at him 3 screams. Well, Bobby just dropped the feed and said, sorry, Moso. And he turned and he run to the house. He said, I've had it. I have just had it with this. I'm ready to move. I said it was just a sass saying hello, Bobby. I said, I know that sound.
He needs to
But
get
yeah,
out there earlier in the day.
that's exactly what he's been doing too. He said the dogs need to go out. I'm just gonna open the door and let them go. I am not going with them. I said, you're a big boy. They're not gonna hurt you. But they have just terrorized him here lately.
They're having fun with them. That's what they are doing.
I'm telling you, they are. They are really having a ball.
But that baby Dogman, most likely, that ran out there and then disappeared in a fog. You know, Jay, they're probably using portals to transport, back and forth here on Earth, probably even.
Yeah.
Because they are, from what we're thinking. I mean, this isn't a for sure, 100%, but it looks like Dogman and Sasquatch both use portals to, transport themselves from one place to the next, or possibly from one place to another dimension. That's the only explanation for that. And it looks like that juvenile knew how to use the portals.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've got one of the best videos of a portal during a thunderstorm that a lot of people have ever seen. And when you zoom in on it and look to the far left of it, away from the light, you can see 3 white, tall humanoid beings jumping into the trees. They stand up and they wave one waves like this to another, and they jump into the trees. Grizzly Chris caught it when he was looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's the same location where I recorded that portal is where I saw that white cat person with the alien-looking creature. Just right in that same. So they absolutely use portals.
Yeah, I think they definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the view I've had over the last. The weirder things get for me, I've had to change my views because of the stuff that's happened to me, and I agree with you. I think that's probably the big answer.
No, definitely the way we're thinking about things. I mean, people say, well, how does a Sasquatch disappear in the middle of a field? Well, he probably used the portal. Used the portal, if you think about it.
Yeah. How come you see one footprint and then all of a sudden everything, you just got the one footprint?
There's nothing there. It's gone.
Especially when there's snow on the ground. You're in a field I've seen it up here, a field of snow. You got one 15-inch track in the middle of this field. Well, where are the rest of them in the snow? Where are the rest of the tracks after? How did that one footprint get here with no trees around in the middle of a pasture?
Exactly. Why just one footprint? Well, I can tell you why. They open up a portal and they are gone.
Yep.
And I have noticed their activity seems to really increase during a storm. The next day after a storm, it seems like they've doubled in their numbers. I'll see them. I'll be able to put a video up and let it record and walk back in the house. Go back and get it an hour later, and it's like their numbers have doubled.
Wow.
It seems like they may use the energy of the storms to help with the portal.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You've got water from the creeks and the rivers, and you've got the energy from the storms, and I'm thinking it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, that would make sense. Storms give off a lot of energy.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They do.
That's incredible.
I don't have all the answers. I just try to be observant and watch and stay alive on this farm.
Excellent observations, though, and excellent conclusions, because that's what it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. Incredible stuff. So, Jen, has anything else happened recently? Besides
not recently that I can think of. They've been very quiet. There's a few weeks ago, it sounded like there might be a war going on between the two, because you had one half of the farm, it was hoots and yells and screams, and on the other end of the spectrum, over toward where the pond and the cemetery is, it was howls, and it sounded like hyenas. That sound, that laughing, chuckling sound that they make. That's what it sounded like. And Bobby leaned in and he said, "You better come out here. Bring your phone." And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "Listen." And you could literally hear them back and forth. It was like someone might have crossed over into that no-go zone, that boundary where none of them go, which seems to be right in line with my house. It's just like they've decided, okay, no one's going to go right in here because she might go there. We're going to stay back this way.
Right.
But I'm really, why so many? Why so many in one location? Why now? are so many people coming forward with current footage of all of these cryptids now.
I know.
You know, that really makes your mind go,
It does.
what's happening?
Yep. What's going on? Yeah.
Is it just because so many people have cameras now because we all have cell phones?
Maybe
I
that's
don't
it.
think so.
Maybe.
It might be part of it, but I don't think that's all of it.
Never know. Jen, how about orbs in the sky? Anything of that nature in your area?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got several videos of orbs in the sky, of UFOs. I've got missing time where I went out on my back porch one night. My son's father-in-law called me. He was just right across the street. He said, Jen, I'm sending you a video of something crazy going on above your house. The stars are changing positions in the sky. And I'm like, what? He said, go outside and look. So I picked up my phone. I put it on video record. I held it up to my chest, just like this. Looked at the clock before I went out because I've been abducted quite a few times.
Uh-huh.
I went out the back door and instantly everything started spinning. And I felt dizzy. And I saw a really bright light coming right at me. And it went past my face and hit the upper part of the roof of the house. And then I felt like electricity, the lower voltage electricity, over my head and down and like this. And that's all I remember. It took them a few seconds to figure out how to touch this damn phone off so to stop recording. So I got the wand of light that they used to disrupt the electricity in my brain to make me go unconscious, coming over my face. I've got a being that looks very much like a cat person. A very good shot of one of their claws, with one of their hands. And at the very end of the video, you can tell that the camera is facing down because I'm being carried off of the porch.
Wow.
So it took them several seconds. The video runs for 1 minute and 2 seconds. That's how long it took them to get that thing, to figure out how to turn this off.
Wow.
And I had an hour and 45 minutes missing time that night because I had looked at the clock when I went out. And the first thing I did when I walked back in the house was look at the clock again. I had cuts, I had bruises, I had a hip I could barely use for months. I had an arm that felt like it was totally, completely dislocated. They put me on my rear for about a year to heal. I had gash marks in the shape of triangles. I had an implant in my head that dug out because it got infected. I took pictures of that. I have pictures of all the bruises and the cut marks that they put on me too, where they took samples.
Oh, no.
You know, Jay, Skinwalker Ranch has nothing. You know, Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, it has nothing on where Jen lives.
Absolutely
in
not.
Eastern Tennessee.
No.
They ought to transfer people over there and check out things that are going on there.
Right.
That would be more interesting.
Unfortunately for me, you know, I think it was just it's a genetic curse. My dad's grandmother used to dream of the little people when she would sleep at night, and she was Native American. And to her, the little people were gray and small with almond-shaped black eyes. So I think it's just genetics.
Yeah.
I have that rare blood type, Rh negative.
That is rare.
I'm A negative, Rh negative, and no one in my family has that blood type. So, you know, I think they follow bloodlines. I think they follow families. And I've had many, many, many abduction events that were just as bad as what I experienced in 2020.
Yeah. You told one last time you were on, I think.
But when I got those pictures of that cat-looking being, looks like a cross between a dogman and a cat person. I mean, it's exactly what it looks like. Wow. With that alien being in the tree was about a week after that abduction event that I caught on video with my phone. So yeah, I've seen UFOs. I've got pictures of UFOs. I've been on UFOs. So maybe that's why my home is like Skinwalker Ranch. Maybe it's me. I don't know. My father had a few experiences before I moved up here. But he was adamant there was no Sasquatch on this farm until he saw one himself.
I would say where you are is 10 times better than Skinwalker Ranch because you're your reports are of a lot of different beings and a
Mhm.
lot more stuff than they have there. A lot more action than they have going on.
Yeah,
It's too bad they don't put a little house down there and headquarters
Mhm.
and just ship a trailer in there and work out from there, because that would be interesting. I
I have
know they
8,000 videos and pictures on my phone, and all of them are of orbs,
yeah.
Sasquatch, Dogman, portals, UFOs, alien entities, what is it, EVPs?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been trying to record as much as possible. My poor phone,
Well,
but I have a lot. It happens all the time, but it's been an ongoing thing all of my life.
yeah.
And so,
gotta
but you're
try.
right. Skinwalker Ranch got nothing on Jen's place.
Nothing
Nothing.
at all. I
Nothing.
mean,
I have.
they just decided to go on the road with another team. It's a different program, but still for Skinwalker Ranch. And they went up to Maryland and Washington D.C. and a couple other places. But they really should go to Eastern Tennessee where you are.
I think
That
so,
would be
too.
amazing. I mean,
There's something here, I'm telling you. And as far as the cryptids, the elemental-like creatures that are always with them, has anyone else reported that? I've got hundreds of photographs of the Sasquatch, and it looks like a small elemental type beings with them.
I've got a picture, and I think I sent it to you, Jen, at one point of that brown female.
Yes.
She's got carrying the little. She's got something, and it's not a baby Sasquatch. It's something else. And she's
right.
carrying it on her left shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. I have
So,
a picture of one. I caught a portal one day when I wasn't quick enough. I think that day I had my Canon camera, not my phone. I saw a portal of light appear, so I just started snapping pictures. And a female Sasquatch came out, and she saw me, and she sat down, and she had a huge ball of light. I mean, huge ball of light in her hand. I'm sitting here looking at her like, what has she got? And instantly, in my mind, I heard, it's my baby. But it was a huge white ball of light.
wow.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Did she allow you to take straight on pictures of her, or?
I've got one picture of her holding that, and I was standing 70 yards from her maybe when I took it.
Yeah, they must like you, because they usually hit mind speak to people and say, "Don't do that." But they must like you a lot, because that's usually
a lot
the norm,
of them have
Jen.
been around me all my life, Nick. I mean, I can remember when I was 3 seeing my first Sasquatch.
Wow.
So I mean, like I said, the Sasquatch people, they don't bother me at all. It's everything else that worries me.
Oh,
because
yeah.
everything else is cruel. They're cruel.
Yeah.
Well, as long as those Sasquatch are out there, they'll protect you most likely.
Mm.
Yeah.
They try.
If you're in any dire situation, they'll probably come and, because they know they must have some sort of higher senses than we actually give them credit for having.
No, I think so. Yeah, I know.
That night I got that 1-2-second recording. If you listen to the audio, that's all you hear is running feet and their screams. And you can hear them clearing the fences trying to get to me.
Oh, wow.
You can hear it in the video and the audio, yeah. So, whatever technology that they use to abduct us, they can subdue them as well.
Right.
Wow.
I had a swimming pool at the time. It was 48 inches. And it was 14 feet in diameter. And one of them was zapped, apparently, and went into that pool. Of course, collapsed one side of it. Destroyed the swimming pool, just one side of it. So if they can, whatever technology it is that they use, can take down one of these big beings, we don't have a hope.
No.
No, not at all.
It looked like a wand of light. Something came up behind me before I could turn. It went over the back of my head, down to the center of my heart, and then back over like this. And it felt like a vibration from like a hot fence, or it was like an electric sound. Right. And I could feel it. I could feel it with my body as it did that. And then that's when my body dropped. And you see the phone point to the porch, and they start moving me away off the porch.
Wow.
Mm. Well, Jay, this has been some phenomenal information that we gathered. Jen, Jay, we're right at the end of our time here. They're going to stop filming for us, but we might have to do a part 3, Jen, if you're willing to come back sometime in the future.
Don't bother me at all. I enjoy talking to you guys.
This is amazing.
Yeah, amazing
tons
stuff.
Tons of information. Tons of it.
Tons.
I'll get Jay those pictures so he can share them with you, Nick, so you can see
That'd
what
be-
I'm talking about.
Oh, I would appreciate that.
Awesome,
Definitely.
Jen. Awesome.
Yep. And
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Jen. And
thank you,
Hey, I
Jen.
enjoy it. You know, I love talking to you guys.
absolutely, same here.
Thank you for
Being
having me.
here. Oh no,
Yeah,
thank
Thank
you.
you for coming on. And
Excellent.
everyone, we'll be back next week. We've got a guest lined up for you. It should be pretty good. So we will see y'all next week. And once again, Nick, Jen, have a good evening. And everyone out there, be good to each other. God bless.
Everybody
Good night.
stay safe. Take care.